Good morning and welcome to the Transform Westside Summit. I'm John Ahmann. I'm President and CEO of the Westside Future Fund. We're the host of the Transform Westside Summit. And I've got my mask right here, and I'm mostly now back to an empty room with the emergence of the Delta variant, even though just a few weeks ago we had come back for our first in-person Transform Summit in over about a year and a half. With the events of the last 2 weeks, we've gone back to virtual. So thank you for watching, and we're coming to you live from the room we would typically be in person at the Gathering Spot, and we appreciate the Gathering Spot hosting us this morning. And we're following all the COVID protocols, and I think myself, I've been vaccinated, and as far as I know, everyone in the room today has been vaccinated, but back to wearing masks out in public. So I've got my mask right here, and we'll be practicing social distancing and hopefully, be through this soon. But we've got a great show lined up for you this morning, and I want to first bring up the real energy for our show, our two co-hosts who have been with us throughout this COVID, Benjamin Earley with Redclay Communications, who does all of our great social media. Benjamin, come on up. And then I'm going to kind of move away. And then also Ebony, who lives on the west side, has been a great champion, resident voice for us. So Ebony, come on up. I'm going to let y'all take it from here.
Okay. All right, John. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate it. Hello, good morning, and what's good, you beautiful people of Atlanta's west side. As John stated, we're back to virtual, and Ebony, one of the reasons, the reason why is, we haven't had enough people get vaccinated. That is the bottom line, folks. The reason why the mask mandate that the mayor just put back in place is because there are too many people who are unvaccinated who are now contributing to putting the vaccinated at risk with the Delta variant and other variants of COVID-19. Just a few statistics for you. People who have been vaccinated have a 0.004% chance of getting infected and being hospitalized by COVID. People who have died from COVID, 99.5% have been people who have not been vaccinated. Of people who have been hospitalized, 97% have been people who have not been vaccinated. So for those of you who have been worried about the vaccine, who have had your reservations, I encourage you to just take a second look at the statistics and see the difference between, how people are being affected with the vaccine versus without. And of course, make your own decisions, but I implore you, please get vaccinated, not just for your sake, not just for your health, but for the health of all your loved ones. That being said, Absolutely. Ebony, we have a great show planned today.
Yes,
I know you got the bulletin there. Why don't you talk about it? Yes, I do.
We do have the bulletin printed out here. Of course, you can download your own copy of our bulletin on westsidefuturefund.org and just have the PDF. I actually have it printed out here, and I want to call your attention to just a couple of things that we mention every summit, to our mission statement. Usually I kind of blow by it just a little bit, but today I'm going to take a second for the people who are not as familiar with Westside Future Fund and what we do here. The mission is, as I read it, to advance a compassionate approach to neighborhood revitalization that creates a diverse, mixed-income community, improves the quality of life for current and future residents, and elevates the historic West Side's unique history and culture. And also, we're also trying to create a community that Dr. King would be proud of, and we're out working hard every day trying to make that happen. And that would not be possible without our board of directors. And I think we have a slide, there it is, and that's our 2021 board of directors. All of them, and I want to make sure I mention that as well, this is a volunteer board. So these people have their jobs, their regular jobs, they have their lives, they have their children and everything else that people do, and they still do find the time to commit to volunteer here on the board of directors at Westside Future Fund. Thank you very much to our board of directors. And also our next slide is our actual dedicated team here that works directly for Westside Future Fund. A couple of them who are actually here today. We don't have the whole team. Obviously, we're following, COVID protocol, but we do have a couple here helping us out today. And also, I want to draw attention to our Get Connected. And
that's right, yeah. We are on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn as well. Please reach out to us, engage with us. We want to engage with you. We love sharing our stories from our community members. We love engaging with you, whether it's in the comment section below this video that's streaming right now or any other content that we post. Feel free to upload, your experience with working with Westside Future Fund or your experience with being helped by Westside Future Fund or any of our partners. And let us know how the West Side can better serve you and people like you. We're all about doing things with the community, not to the community. So feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to hear from you.
And also, we need you to right away so that you can get your name in the drawing for our Home Depot gift card giveaway and also our Goodwill of North Georgia gift card giveaway. And you do that by going to our website, westsidefuturefund.org, click on Event Spotlight, RSVP, and putting your information by 8:15 so you can get entered into the drawing for both of those cards. And yeah, speaking of our show, I didn't get to that part. Today we have Miss Colette Haywood, who is the Vice Chair, and I hope I'm getting her title correct, Vice Chair of the NPU-L, which is the Neighborhood Planning Unit, and it's L, obviously, and that encompasses my favorite neighborhoods in the city of Atlanta, and that is English Avenue and Vine City, better known as The Bluff, and you have to say it like that, The Bluff. Okay. So, and then we also have Dr. French, who is the president of Clark Atlanta University. Yes. And yeah, it's going to be a very exciting interview they're going to have with John, and Ms. Haywood is also going to be doing our devotion today. So stay tuned, everyone. I'm not going to give too much away. John's going to introduce later.
Yeah, we're going to be going over some very exciting news that Clark Atlanta just announced recently. You might have seen it in the press, but we're looking forward to hearing all about that coming up soon. And with that being said, Mr. John Ahmann, please take the stage, sir.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. So for those that are new watching our program this morning, our devotion draws from the lessons of Nehemiah in the Old Testament. And if you haven't had a chance to read Nehemiah, he was the cupbearer to the king and felt called back to his home. And when he got back, it was very much in disarray. One of the things that he did when he arrived was to rebuild the wall to keep everyone safe. And then from there, really a story about governing from a value-based approach. And we draw a lot of lessons from Nehemiah, so we ask our devotion speakers just to take inspiration from Nehemiah when they give their devotion. But it's a non-secular devotion. I want to read a statement that we always read before our devotion. It's also printed up in our bulletin. But it's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community, recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the Westside revitalization effort. At the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it's meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. And I'm very grateful that she agreed to do it, but a Westside resident, Colette Haywood, as Ebony said, the vice chair of NPU-L, her bio is in our other bulletin, but she's an author, a veteran businesswoman. She's been a community leader for over 20 years. She's an alumni of Morris Brown College, and she received her PhD in public policy to better address the cultural and social barriers imposed by students in the community. When I first started working with the Westside Future a little over 5 years ago, I met Colette, and she is a very strong advocate for her community and the values of her community. And we're lucky to have her come up and do her devotion this morning. And I learned when I was talking to her before our show that it turns out she knows a lot about Nehemiah, because she shared she had early in her career done some graduate work around Nehemiah. So thank you for giving our devotion this morning. So you can come on up, and I'll kind of exit this way.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is a real honor for me to lead this devotion because I am an alum of the Atlanta University Center. Man, timing is everything, right? Because two of my daughters attended Clark Atlanta. Unfortunately, they didn't attend when you all were forgiving debt. But I'm a proud Panther parent, and the Atlanta University Center is close to my heart. When I was a little girl, I used to take ballet at, it used to be the Phyllis Wheatley Y, and I would watch the homecoming celebrations hanging out of the window. So I always knew that I wanted to go to a historically Black college. And thank God for that opportunity that I've attended too. Morris Brown College and the Interdenominational Theological Center which is where I worked on my master thesis that John spoke about. So the subject of this thesis was who speaks for God in public spaces. The title of the thesis, I wanted to explore the role, as John described it, of the faith community in community development. So what we know about Atlanta is that during the antebellum period, of course, Atlanta wasn't a friendly place for blacks. But after the Civil War, seeking the protection of federal troops, black people flocked to Atlanta. So imagine, if you will, what the city must have looked like. Sherman had destroyed it. So the city was destroyed, the infrastructure was gone. People, both black and white, were homeless, they were jobless, and they were in the midst of a pandemic. Sounds familiar, right? But that didn't stop them, because during this time, people of faith also flocked to Atlanta. They came here to educate and to provide relief in terms of food, clothing, housing, shelter, education. And this occurred amongst both black and white. They were striving to create what Dr. King would later refer to as the beloved community. So what really strikes me is during this time, in order to do the work that they did, they had to have hope. So in times such as these, where do we find our hope? For me, my hope comes through my faith. And John, I appreciate what you referred to when you talked about faith, because my master is in religion. So for me, it doesn't matter what your faith is, right? Even people who profess that they don't believe in something, you believe in something. So I encourage everyone to be your own theologian. But my faith informs me or gives me hope because I rely on stories of the Bible. And this is where we find hope, through the book of Nehemiah and Ezra. I like to add Ezra. So a lot of times when you hear about Nehemiah, especially if you're a churchgoer, like that's our go-to sermon for the building fund. We need a new faith center. We need a new chapel. We need a new build. So we go to Nehemiah. But we have to be careful not to miss the lesson, because Nehemiah wasn't just in the brick and mortar business. Nehemiah was in the business of faith. When we think about Nehemiah, he was the governor. Well, no, let's back up a second. To understand the importance of Nehemiah, you have to understand the historical context that the story takes place. The Israelites had been dominated by the Babylonians for 70 years. So they were captives, pretty much. They were a conquered people. And their temple had been destroyed. God charged Ezra and Nehemiah with the rebuilding of the temple. So how did they do that? Where did they find their faith? Paired with Ezra, Nehemiah may be the most fertile ground in all the Bible to demonstrate the toil and fruit of the reformation needed to build the beloved community. At first glance, it's just about the building, but it's the Spirit of God that gave them hope for a more significant reformation that took place in the hearts of the people. That's where the beloved community can be found, in the heart. So Nehemiah is important because it gives us a foundation, it gives us a template, and that template includes 4 things: clearly defined and frequently articulated roles and responsibilities. Everybody has a task, they need to know what it is. transparent distribution of resources, a set of defined expectations. We got to manage our expectations, and open avenues of communication that includes everyone, even the least of these. So following this template, we have to consider spirituality's meaning in terms of opportunity for social activism and community building. The Spirit of God, the Creator, the universe, no matter, as my grandfather would say, whatsoever you may call it, is the ultimate oneness with nature and the fundamental interconnectedness of all. Let me repeat that. All things. Spirit and love are one. Love is the power of the new in every man and in all history. It doesn't age. It removes guilt, and it is working, even today, toward a new creation. In writing about his vision of the beloved community, Dr. King advised us, today, more than ever before, men of all races and men of all nations are challenged to be neighborly. The call for a good neighbor policy on the part of the nations of the world is more than an ethereal shibboleth. It's the call to a way of life that will transform our most cosmic elegy into creative fulfillment. No longer can we engage in the luxury of passing by on the other side. Such folly was once moral failure, but today it can only lead to universal suicide. Love is the answer. So when I ask who speaks for God in public spaces, my faith directs me to Jesus. Jesus was a revolutionary, right? When you think about it, like we don't see him, I believe. My theology, but you be your own theologian, tells me that he was a revolutionary. They were always telling, he partied too much. He hanging with the prostitutes. Like, what is he doing what is he doing with these people? They're not worthy of him. He spoke for the least of these. The answer is so simple, and we make it so difficult, because the answer is love. Thank you, John. I really appreciate this effort. I'm so honored to represent the Atlanta University Center and Clark. I really appreciate the work that you all are doing and the effort that's going forth to end this pandemic. I'm working now to educate youth about the vaccine so we can make it safe for our students to return to school. So thank you, everyone. And on that note, you got it, John.
All right, well, there's only a few of us here. Maybe we give Colette a hand. That was a great, great devotion. So love is the answer, and I appreciate, you leaning into that. And I think, also when you brought up the history of, right after the Civil War and the city was burned down and a plague at the time, what did people lean into? They leaned into their faith to draw strength. So in these challenging times, thank you for reminding us of that, and thank you also, Colette, for being an example of living your faith. And now I kind of have a deeper appreciation of where you get your strength. So thank you for doing that this morning. We really appreciate it. And we also, even though we're virtual, we still want to take a minute to see who's watching, and hopefully have you check in. If we were at the gathering spot, what we'd be doing just about now, which we really miss doing, is people self-introduce so we can all get to know each other and remind ourselves of who we are and how we're working together. But I think we want to, turn over to you, Benjamin, to help get people engaged on social media?
Yeah, we've already got some good engagement going so far. Like I said, we're streaming live right now on Facebook and YouTube. And, if you're watching on either of these channels, go ahead and drop a nice Friday morning greeting, a nice West Side greeting, so we know how you're feeling and that you're feeling good and you're looking forward to all the valuable information that you get here at the summits and what you're going to be hearing this morning. Just a few folks who have checked in so far. I see on Facebook we've got Parent Avenger, Miss Waukesha Howe, good morning. We got
And
Rosario.
Waukesha was in the New York Times.
Yes, she was.
Very famous Waukesha.
Yes, she was. Future Atlanta Mayor Waukesha.
Right.
And we've got Miss Rosario Hernandez. Hi, Miss Hernandez. How you doing? Good morning. We got Joe Moore. We've got board member Aretta Baldwin. Thank you for joining. We've got Lavetta Walker. Thank you for joining. Deanna Palmer Price. Thank you for joining. Let's see, we got a few folks on YouTube as well who've checked in. We got Tillman Ward. We all know Tillman Ward. How you doing, Mr. Ward? Good morning. Thank you for joining. Miss Sandra Bush, thank you for joining. Waukesha, now how you watching on Facebook and on YouTube? That's what I'm talking about. See, that is the good West Side support
right.
That's what we need. I'm telling you, Parent Avengers, they mean business. I'm telling you. We got Ronnie Lewis again on YouTube. Good morning. Thank you for checking in. Hanifa Huntley's, thank you for checking in on YouTube. So we've got a lot of people checking in right now. Throughout the course of the show, of course, if you have anything that you want to ask or have asked to our panelists, go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section. We'll be happy to follow up with you. And if we aren't able to get to your questions during the summit, still drop a question in the comment section, and we'll follow up with you after the summit. We look forward to continuing to engage you.
And I wanted to also say, too, if you were watching Colette's devotion and felt a call that you'd like to give a devotion, we'd love to have people from the community do the devotion. So, hit us up on social media or email us at our website if you would have an interest in doing this devotion this morning.
All right.
With
that being said, let's move it right along. I think it's time for you to have a very interesting conversation, John.
Well, yeah, and actually, speaking of the New York Times, that I was reading the New York Times last Sunday, which I would imagine is probably the New York Times' most well-read edition. And then one of the lead articles of the Sunday New York Times was about the historical black colleges, but the one that really built the article around and did all this kind of storytelling around was our very own Clark University. And was like, wow, that's pretty amazing, because some great accomplishments that have occurred over the last couple of years we're going to learn more about, but I thought it'd be a great opportunity to hear more. And I'm very delighted that this morning, and we'll bring him up in just a moment, but the president of Clark Atlanta University, President George T. French, Jr., who is the 5th president of Clark Atlanta University. Prior to Clark Atlanta University, he served for 14 years as the president of Miles College, making him one of the longest-serving university presidents in the nation. And under his leadership, Clark Atlanta University has exponentially smashed, we could say, all fundraising records in the history of the university, and we'll learn more about that in our program. That is so important, because that means, relieving debt of students that are attending Clark Atlanta University. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show an introductory video of Clark Atlanta University, and when we come out of that video in about 2.5 minutes or so, I'll be back up on stage with President French.
This is Clark Atlanta University, located in the heart of the city of Atlanta. It's where the bells of historic Harkness Hall rang vibrantly, creating a spirit of hope, pride, and unity. It's where students come to become the nation's top leaders, business professionals, screenwriters, television and movie producers. It's where students get skills to become professional journalists, scientists, researchers, professional musicians, and social workers. It's where academics, culture, and support from faculty encompass the full college experience. Come get some CAU.
Wow. Great introductory video, President Friends. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having us, John. I'm here with one of my vice presidents, Sam Burston, whose team actually put that wonderful video together.
Oh, yeah. Well, his team did a very nice job.
Thank you.
But I appreciate the opportunity to have this dialogue with you this morning. And getting us an introduction, I imagine being the New York Times means you're probably got a lot of people interested in hearing what you have to say. So thank you for sharing that with us this morning.
And thank you, John. Let me thank you first for your work to the beloved community, from your work with the congressmen, from your work with the city to the state, your work with the Olympic Games, which has had an indelible impact upon this community, and all that you're doing for the West End now. And you were one of the first persons to embrace me when I arrived here in Atlanta. Came by my office, you had your plans, you had your folders, you had your maps, and you laid it out for us.
My PowerPoints, yeah.
Yes, your PowerPoints. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And I should say, too, you know, now we're talking before the show, I live over in the West Side. I haven't heard it lately, but whenever, you know, folks are at your stadium when they're playing, I can hear it at my house, so I can always hear the energy of your students.
So you'll be able to walk over this fall.
Right.
When we'll be back on campus with 4,000 students. So we look forward to you walking on over, and we will host you and take great care of you.
Well, thank you. And that kind of sets up our, you know, the first one to ask, because you're now in your second year.
Yes.
As president, and we said in the introduction, you come over from Miles College, but you know, how's it, you know, moving to Atlanta? How's that been for you?
Awesome. Of course, we've had historic challenges with pandemic, with the economy shifting, as it were, but overall, it's been a magnificent opportunity for me. Learned so much about our community. I've gotten to know the corporate, the civic communities, governmental communities. We've just been really engaged, despite pandemic. We had to get out there, and my board of trustees, under the leadership of Greg Morrison, they've done a fantastic job of onboarding me. Right. At the same time, when you look at your organization, your chair, Dr. Tatum is a good friend, and then Valerie Montgomery Rice is a good friend who's also a president now in the AUC. So all of these community leaders have embraced us, and it's made all the difference.
Well, I guess I know a little off script, but in line with the question, like, what would, if you were talking to folks that weren't from Atlanta, that have known you a long time, like, what would be one of the things you'd say kind of has surprised you about Atlanta, like, you know, in your realized?
Well, I've known Atlanta all of my life. I've had colleagues here and different business partners here, so there's not, there haven't been many surprises, to be honest with you. What has surprised me, I guess, a little bit is to watch the true growth and development of the West Side. And I say that because, of course, we understand gentrification, we understand the expansion of communities and economies all over the country, but the very deliberate and intentional attention paid to the West Side is impressive to me and has been impressive to me. And we know that in order for anyone to have true community and feel good about the community, they have to feel safe, they have to feel secure, there has to be an educational infrastructure in place, there has to be a strong and thriving economy. So the West Side Future Fund is very deliberate and intentional, even in your mission, saying we want to work with, not do to communities. So it's just very important, and I've been impressed by that since I've been here.
No, I appreciate that. And to that point, you know, Colette in her introduction referenced, you know, Dr. King, Reverend Dr. King, and he often spoke of the beloved community. And when I first started my work, another Vine City resident, her name is Makeda Johnson, another ordained minister, but she wrote an essay called "The Beloved Community: The Alternative to Gentrification." But to how to rebuild a community based on those set of values. That's something I personally have taken a lot of inspiration from.
That is an impressive piece. I've read that myself. It's quite impressive. And the juxtaposition and some of the analyses that are in that essay are very persuasive and very informative at the same time. So absolutely excellent, sir.
And I also appreciate, because of my work, but other folks may not know, that of the HBCUs on the campus, Morehouse and Spelman, there was the medical school, along with, I know they lost their accreditation, Morris Brown. But why is Clark Atlanta University named Clark Atlanta University? What's special in that name? Because a lot of people might not appreciate why it's named university as opposed to college.
So it is the only university in the AUC, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta University, Morehouse School of Medicine, and Spelman. So we are the only university. We're a Research 2 university. It was by design. What's so beautiful about the AUC, it was designed for there to be a university, for there to be 2 liberal arts colleges, for there to be a medical school, so that these best and brightest students, which we have at Clark Atlanta University, we have students from 42 cities and 30 countries. Spelman, Morehouse, the same. We have this conglomerate, we have this consortium of the most intellectual African Americans that you would find anywhere in the world. This is literally the largest consortium of HBCU schools in the world. So we have the best and the brightest coming from everywhere, and they descend upon the AUC in the West End. They come here, they meet their husbands and their wives, they find churches and synagogues and other places of worship, and they wind up staying here. So the AUC inures to the benefit of the city of Atlanta, which of course always inures to the benefit of the state of Georgia.
No, absolutely, and the University of Pacific means too, because you're the only one that has graduate programs.
Right. Atlanta University was the first graduate school in the nation to provide graduate education to African Americans. Dr. Colette, you were absolutely correct. The Civil War ending with Sherman's March to the Sea effectively, and then officially over in April of 1865, and it only took 5 months. In September of 1865, Atlanta University was founded. And then in 1869, Clark University, now Clark College, was established, and that was the first undergraduate HBCU in the South. So in 1988, you have the consolidation of Clark College and Atlanta University, as you asked earlier, which created Clark Atlanta University. What I love touting my name. I love my last name, French. I love my first name, George. My middle name is Tony, though. That's part of my name. I love the name Tony. That's my middle name. My middle name at this institution is Atlanta. Clark Atlanta University is the University of Atlanta, no doubt about it.
And what I appreciate and gotten to know the HBCUs better and work on the West Side is, as you just referenced, historically Clark was the first.
Yes.
But at the time it came online, people literally risked their lives to get educated, because this was the South at the time, and it still can be very challenging, and would risk their lives and literally die to get their children educated or for others to get educated.
Literally die.
Right.
John, you're talking empirical data here. You're talking about not the fact that people did not want African Americans to be educated, but at one time it was illegal for African Americans to be educated. So here we are at an institution where William Edward Burghardt Du Bois was the key faculty member, who Du Bois was also the #1 consultant to the United States Department of Labor. So after doing analyses and studies of the African American community in Atlanta and in Philadelphia, he would use his data to inform the United States government about the trends in employment amongst African Americans in this nation. All of that while at Atlanta University. And parenthetically, let me say, you mentioned also Morris Brown. We have to, and we always continue to support Morris Brown, which came out of Atlanta University.
Right.
That was the property where we were originally. So we support Morris Brown, and they have candidacy status for TRACS accreditation, and we feel confident that they will be back. And Dr. Holloway, we thank you for being a graduate of Morris Brown College, and we support them 100%.
And also, I think, if I have the data right, is Clark Atlanta the largest HBCU as part of the United Negro College
Yes,
Fund?
with 4,000 students, we are the largest private HBCU within the state of Georgia. But our tentacles are far and wide. While we lift up Clark Atlanta University, the AUC, I am a proponent of HBCUs, period. Whether it's Talladega,
Right.
or Stillman, or Oakwood, we all have to stick together.
Right.
And that's the message that I give to our colleagues, is that we really don't operate for competitive advantage as against one another. It's
Right.
time out that we try to compete with one another as HBCUs for a small slither of the pie. I say let's come together in collaboration and demand the whole pie. And we can only do that if we bring all of our core competencies, proficiencies together and go for the whole pie in collaboration instead of divisiveness.
So more working together than apart.
More working together than apart.
And building on your HBCU comments, because a lot of folks may not appreciate, especially those that haven't had direct experience with HBCUs. So my two daughters both went to UGA. A little bit of a family tradition. Their mother went there as well. But why are HBCUs? I'm kind of teeing up. But why are they so important? If you're a black student, what's special about going to an HBCU that maybe I went to Emory, from somewhere else? Like, especially why are HBCUs so important?
They're so important because they've remained relevant for 160 plus years. At one time, it was the only option for African Americans, but now that it's not the only option, we're thriving more than ever. We actually created the black middle class. That's who African Americans are through HBCUs. We actually produce 80% of all black federal judges, 50% of all lawyers, 75% of all within the STEM discipline. So we're relevant because we get the job done. Those who matriculate at an HBCU, they can expect a different experience. I was with your president of Emory recently, excellent president, because we're going to collaborate. But on Clark Atlanta University's campus, when you see the president and I ask you, what is your grade point average? Or if you don't show up for class, guess what? After a while, we will call your mother and ask, where is your child who's not in class? You don't get that anywhere else.
And I know too, if I were black and went to a university, which is a majority white institution for students, versus going to Clark Atlanta, because another thing I've learned, especially for a lot of families that are having first-generational college experiences, with HBCUs to promote the success of that student and the more likelihood that student will have success, nothing digging Emory, but the things that Clark Atlanta bring and the other HBCUs to black students that are just unique, and especially for, I think a lot of white folks don't appreciate that and how important that is, for student success.
And the cultural competencies, as you said, that HBCUs have, is just inherent in who we are. And again, I went to the University of Louisville, which is a PWI, received an excellent education, but you have professors at PWI sometimes who have to make sure that they are scaling, that they are culturally scaling to connect with the individuals within the classroom. At an HBCU, that's inherent, that's natural. So there's a comfort level, there's a feeling as my students walk across the promenade that this is where I am supposed to be.
Right.
And they hold their heads up high, and the sky is the limit. And when you can touch your president, like they touch me every day, and Mr. President, I need a letter of reference because I'm looking at General Electric. This president will give you that letter of reference to give you a leg up over all of the other competitors out there.
All right, well, that's pretty special and kind of sets up a next question, which is, during a time of COVID, over the last year, how's that been for you? How have y'all, worked in this time of COVID with your students?
It's had the unique challenges, of course, this pandemic being a world pandemic, of course, which is inherent in the term epidemic, could be just within the confines of one country. Pandemic spans the whole globe. So the whole world has experienced something that we've not experienced since 1918 with the outbreak of influenza of this dimension. So we've had to literally, my faculty and staff, John, they were phenomenal. They became T-Tech trained in a matter of weeks, and we went online fully with 4,000 students. We migrated 4,000 students from on-ground to an online platform, and we did so successfully. Now, I've gone to the computer store in the past, and I've asked for 2 computers, but this time I went and asked for 4,000. We spent $3 million of our funds to make sure that all of our students had laptop computers. Then when they went to these 42 different cities, they didn't always have internet access. We purchased hotspots. We purchased tickets home, airline tickets, bus tickets, sent them checks in the mail for the housing. We provided all of the services that we could for our students.
So it sounds kind of like you did whatever it took.
Whatever it took. And now we are preparing to go back on ground this fall for full, and we are requiring that our students are vaccinated. It's serious out there. It's no doubt our students need to be vaccinated. Our people need to be vaccinated. Everyone in the United States needs to be vaccinated. We are a scientific research institution. We are guided and informed by science. What the young man Benjamin, the statistics that he quoted earlier, it tells the entire story. 0.5% versus the 99.5% that are dying and hospitalized. It's a no-brainer. At some point, we have to take a stand. And as academicians, we take the stand that we stand and are informed by science. And we are telling our community, get vaccinated.
So for your students coming back on campus, they have to all be vaccinated?
Yes.
And then I assume that then also means your faculty.
Faculty and staff as well.
So everyone.
And they've been cooperative. The students, faculty, and staff. We have about, I think as of yesterday, 85% of our faculty and staff have been vaccinated, and we were at about 75% of our students. But we will reach, that's critical mass already, but we're going for 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your leadership on that. And maybe you've already kind of answered the question, but since you've come, over the last couple of years, what has been your most difficult challenge?
The most difficult challenge has been pandemic. At the same time, they say that the Chinese symbol for crisis and opportunity is the same. So during this crisis, we've also been presented with quite a few opportunities. My vice president of development, well, actually, he's vice president of external affairs. Now, he told me on yesterday as we visited one of my colleagues, the first president of Clark Atlanta University, and Judge Cole and President Cole yesterday, he was sharing with them that we've been able to raise over $100 million during this phase.
So let's back that up. Over the last year, you've been able to raise, how much, say it again?
Over $100 million.
Wow.
So
that's
we're
amazing.
talking, it's amazing. So we're talking, and that's inclusive of what we were able to work with the federal government to get through the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. It's inclusive of a Mackenzie Scott gift of $15 million, a House of Cheatham gift of $3 million. As a matter of fact, John, you should have walked down to commencement. At commencement this year, we were presented with $5 million in checks. The community has been so supportive of us through these types of funds. And what's interesting is a lot of people say, well, it's because of the social justice movement. Well, some of those may have been the impetus for the gifts, but the bottom line is at one time, I remember when it was a moral imperative for corporations to give to HBCUs. That's not the case anymore. It's a business decision as they look at the benefits of diversifying, of bringing in creative African-American minds, which, by the way, when you walk the campus of the AUC at any time, that's where you see Black excellence. If you ever want to see Black excellence, walk those hallowed grounds. But now it's not just the moral imperative, it's a business decision. Increases the bottom line.
No, I appreciate that, and in the past you referenced in my bio, I used to work at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and it's been noted that Atlanta, unfortunately, has some of the widest disparities between those in the bottom 20 percentile and the top 20 percentile, the multiplier, how much separates. And that bottom 20% is overwhelmingly black, and the top is overwhelmingly white. But what's proven to deliver economic mobility is getting higher education. So back to your ROI, if your top priority is reducing that gap, your top priority is to help the city of Atlanta address its lack of mobility, there's probably no better dollar spent than investing in HBCUs. So
that's it. That's it. Social mobility, that's what we're talking about. Economic mobility, that's what we're, and that's what's proven, tested, tried, and true. Higher education is the great equalizer. When I was growing up in my household, there was no doubt, there wasn't even a conversation of whether you're going to university. The question is, where would you go? And what we've witnessed is the mobility, the social mobility factor exponentially is increased once you receive higher education.
And I know we're going to hear more about this. We're going to cut to a CNN interview. Okay. But when that mobility is also increased when you take away students' debt.
That's right. That's right. It increases when you take away debt. So when students graduate, they are able to buy houses, they're able to buy automobiles for their families, they're able to invest, which is a very important component, able to invest because they don't have all of that student debt. Yes.
Well, it's raising $100 million is putting you in some famous places. We're going to cut to a CNN interview, I think, now.
All right.
And after this CNN interview is about 4 minutes, we'll come back for some more Q&A.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Students have faced a lot of curveballs in this pandemic, but for the ones attending Clark Atlanta University, this is a good one. They just got this message from the school's president. We are pleased to inform you that we are canceling all CAU student account balances with the university for the spring 2020, fall 2020, spring 2021, and summer 2021 semesters by bringing them to a zero balance. And the president of Clark Atlanta University, George T. French Jr., joins us now. What an amazing gift. This sounds like a lot of money. Just how much are we talking, and how many students will be impacted?
Well, thank you so much. Clark Atlanta University is the largest private HBCU in the state of Georgia. We have about 4,000 students. So we were able to tell our students thank you for being resilient and diligent during the COVID. They've not been on campus for a year. So we decided to set aside about $2 million and to eliminate all of their balances. So, and I tell you, over the last few months, I've received calls and texts and emails from students who otherwise would not be able to return to school in the fall. But now they woke this morning and they have zero balances.
Incredible. Explain exactly then what this covers. Does this cover 100% cost of tuition and room and board?
Well, it covers your balance. It's not that we're paying the tuition. It's that if you had a tuition balance, if you had a room or dining balance, then we forgave that balance. And we used federal funds. We used HERF funds, which HERF is the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund, which is part of the CARES Act. So the AUC presidents, we were instrumental in getting that through Congress. We were grateful that UNCF actually made the hardest push to get this money for students, and we decided to use ours at Clark Atlanta University to return it directly to the students.
And how much money is that then?
So that's $2 million, approximately $2 million. And to be honest with you, my COO and CFO this morning, they suggested that we do a little bit more. So we're going back to the drawing board to see if we can do some more for our students.
And does that mean then potentially people who are incoming freshmen who also have suffered through the pandemic and whose families have struggled might see some kind of relief as well?
Well, we won't make that promise yet, but that's exactly, you get it. That's exactly what we're working. We've had several high net worth individuals to approach us in the last few days that want to do exactly what you just described for the incoming class.
This has obviously been such a hard year for everyone. I mean, at the height of the pandemic, there were 22 million jobs lost, and right now the U.S. is still down nearly 7 million jobs. What have you heard from students about, how this will impact them? Do any stories stand out to you?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because of those statistics, you're eminently correct. However, when you disaggregate those data, you see that of all of those businesses in the United States, 50% of minority businesses went under during the pandemic. So there's a huge void within the African American community as far as entrepreneurship. So our students, yes, they were had some difficult days. They had to go to 42 different cities across the nation going back home. So many of them didn't have laptops. So we purchased 4,000 laptops, gave them to all of our students, purchased hotspots, put checks in the mail to our students. We did everything that we could to make sure that they could continue to matriculate and graduate from Clark Atlanta University.
George French, president of Clark Atlanta University, thank you for sharing all that with us. Congrats to the student.
Awesome interview.
Thank you.
And
awesome opportunity.
Yeah, being on CNN beats. Well, hopefully we're standing up at the Transform Westside Summit. But I saw in your the first video, y'all were touring one of our senators, and when I read the New York Times article, I didn't realize the role the American Rescue Act played in helping reduce debt at the HBCUs. You want to talk a little bit about what that has meant?
Yes, John, you said it. It all comes back to the economics. So the economics would dictate that if we want our students to continue to matriculate and be successful, we have to help them economically. So we eliminated the debt. When we talk about economics, when you look at Clark Atlanta University, we have a $204 million annual impact. Individuals who graduate from that institution make on average $2 million additionally over their lifetime. So it's about economics. When we look at the economy and some of the challenges we've had, one of the partnerships that we just entered into in answer to what I said on CNN, about 50% of all African-American businesses going under during pandemic, we have to create new businesses. That's why we partnered with John Hope Bryan and Operation Hope recently to create 1 million new black businesses over the next 10 years. In Clark Atlanta University, we are dedicated to creating 1,000 of those over the next 10 years. So if you're interested in starting your own business right here in our beloved West End, come to Clark Atlanta University. Go to our website. Take advantage of this 1 million new entrepreneurs that we are going to support to start their own businesses.
And on, back for people that are watching who may be potential givers for Clark Atlanta University. So if someone's heard you raised $100 million last year, do you have enough money? Are you done?
No. As a matter of fact, I tell you what, I'm a different type of, I'm a transformative president. If you call me and tell me you have $1 million for me, I'm not going to say let's talk next week. If you call me and tell me you have $1 million for me, my vice president, Sam Burston, and I, and Richard Lucas, another vice president, we'll meet you at Waffle House at midnight, and we'll pick up the check for $1 million.
And what I appreciate, because you mentioned Emory, the kind of endowment that any university is lucky enough to enjoy, but that's still something like a Clark Atlanta's building too. So, in terms of y'all's endowment, other resources, these funds are very much needed now and in the future.
And they are needed, very much so for endowment, to continue to help reduce student debt, to expand, because globalization, of course, is the order of the day. So we have to expand in information technology and communication. We have to expand in internationalization and globalization. Internationalization will have the policy component for how you globalize. So we need funds. We are asking the community to continue to support not just Clark Atlanta University, but Morris Brown, Spelman, all the AUC schools, so that we can continue to reach this mission. And I tell you, John, this is an excellent summit. And I really want to thank Dan Cathy, as I understand, was the initial individual who suggested this. So we're appreciative to Mr. Cathy, as well as to Chick-fil-A. We work very closely with Rodney Bullard and others right now.
No, Rodney and Rodney Bullard, who leads the Chick-fil-A Foundation, and Dan, to your point, was the summit was their idea of giving a lot of support, and a lot of it is historically, coming of age in Atlanta, a lot of folks didn't know about the West Side, didn't know about the Colettes, so a lot of the Transform Westside Summits has just been about a safe place to get to know each other better.
Well, this is awesome. I tell you, being at the gathering spot is always great.
Yeah.
The energy here is super. And at the same time, if you ever move the summit, we would love to have you on the campus of Clark Atlanta University.
Well, yeah, and it's depending on how long COVID is, we're doing these virtual. We maybe come doing it at your place, because also tease up another question. You've been a lot in the news lately, and another kind of famous Atlanta person's coming your way when she finishes up her term as mayor. You want to talk a little bit about Mayor Bottoms, what her role will be at Park Atlanta University?
She is going to be part of our Executive Leadership Institute, and that's a new institute it was sponsored first by the Rich Foundation with a gift of $400,000. Recently, the Zuckerberg Foundation made a gift to us of $1 million to support this initiative to create the next generation of African-American leaders for these 100-plus HBCUs. So the mayor, whose mother, parenthetically, is a graduate of Clark Atlanta University.
Oh, so she made her mother very happy.
She made her mother happy. She used to attend classes with her mother on the campus.
Wow.
So she will be one of our leadership fellows, and she will hopefully serve as a coach or mentor to some of our 26 fellows, and she will lecture there. So we are super excited to have Mayor Bottoms return to our beautiful campus.
Yeah, and I know when she first came into office, she had a real focus on helping the HBCUs.
So she's remained focused there.
So great to see her. And also wanted to touch on. If you wanted to go about, instituting change in higher education, if you can make any change in higher education, especially with the focus on HBCUs, what would be that change, and how would you go about implementing it?
So higher education has gone through a series of iterations, revolutionary and transformative change. One of the first being in the 18th century, with the development of the research university, which started in Germany and evolved throughout the world. And now we've had another iteration of change during the 20th and 21st century, when we look at digitization, when we look at the evolution of technology again, when we look at a integrated world economy, when we look at technology and the numbers of individuals who are seeking online education as an option. If I had one change that I could make, I would accelerate the accessibility for all people, whether the barriers are financial or technological, or if it's racially motivated or socially motivated. I would want to remove the barriers for those who don't have access to higher education. So that would mean more federal funding, more private funding, sector funding. It would include the support from all sectors of society to make sure we have access. Bottom line, I see individuals coming from everywhere. When my wife and I travel to Ethiopia or Johannesburg or Cote d'Ivoire, we see individuals who are brilliant, but sometimes they just don't have access to higher education. So when students come from one of the 30 countries to Clark Atlanta University, they bring with them a wealth of diverse cultural knowledge, which inures to the benefit of all of our students. So access helps everybody.
And access, so the main barrier in access is back to financial. So removing those financial barriers for families to be able to have their children attend.
Absolutely, and that's what we continue to do, is remove those financial barriers. We continue to seek support. As you know, I am a fundraiser. That's what I did for 10 years before ascending to a presidency. So I always enjoy fundraising. I always take every opportunity like this to ask for support for our nation's HBCUs. Doesn't matter if you went to Southern and Baton Rouge, wherever you went, send some money back to your institution.
Well, and I think, another question, and I think, right, as a fundraiser, you appreciate those phone calls that just kind of show up, right? And I think one of those phone calls is what led to the Propel Center. So you want to tell folks who may not be familiar, what is the Propel Center, how it came to be, and what it's going to do?
So the Propel Center is an initiative of the only only $2 trillion corporation in America, which is Apple. In combination as between Apple, Southern Company, Ed Farm, and several other partners, Apple conceived this idea of a Propel Center, which would be the global hub for HBCUs. Apple, Southern Company,
the global
hub for HBCUs. So the official announcement of where it will be has not yet been made. Apple is just saying right now that it will be within the Atlanta University Center on one of our campuses. Clark Atlanta University has been instrumental in those conversations of development of the Propel Center. So we're super excited. We'll be making the announcement, Apple will be making the announcement within about the next 30 days of exactly where it will be. But this technology hub will serve all HBCUs in the nation. So if you are at a school in West Virginia and you're having financial challenges even, you can come to the Propel Center, and partners like JP Morgan Chase and Regions Bank, they will have executives and resident experts there to help you work through your P&L, through your balance sheet, to determine what your financial barriers are. If it's technology, we will have the latest cutting-edge technology. For example, it won't be what we see every day as technology. It will be, for example, you walk into a classroom and you have a hologram, and you have someone there who is lecturing from Germany, but the technology makes it appear that that person is standing right in front of you. The same technology that will be used in the operating room. When you go to Grady emergency room and you require open heart surgery and you want the best person in the world who happens to be in Paris, France, the hologram is going to make it look like he is right, or she is right there pointing and directing the surgeon on ground. That's the type of technology. Finally, coding is going to be taught there. We know that we're in the fourth industrial revolution, so we are going to emphasize artificial intelligence there. It is going to be cutting edge, and it's going to be on the west side of Atlanta.
On the HP, somewhere on the campus land.
One over there on one of those 4 campuses.
And is Apple and the other partners, are they actually financing the building of the building?
Yes, they are. $50 million for the actual financing of the building, another $50 million for programming. So they've allocated to date $100 million, but they emphasize that's just the beginning.
So they're going to run it too? Is it be run?
It will be run by the Propel Center, which will be a different entity. So Clark Atlanta University or any other schools won't be running it, but we'll be collaborating.
With the Propel Center?
With the Propel Center.
Well,
resident experts, though, we will be there.
Well, that's going to
be... And you'll be there, I guarantee you.
No, look, on the screenshot, it looks great, yeah.
Yes.
No, it looks great. So we'll know the location of that?
In the next 30 days, we'll know the location. We'll make a huge announcement. We've met with Governor Kemp. We've met with the mayor. We've met with Senator Ossoff as well as Warnock, and they're supportive, very supportive.
Well, it's amazing because I would imagine you mentioned earlier Apple. I think at their market valuation, you said is $2 trillion. Or
$2 trillion.
They continue
the only $2 trillion corporation.
So seeing them invest in Atlanta's HBCU campus, kudos to you. And we were saying we're about out of time, but I learned when I read about the why behind that, I'm talking about at the beginning of the show, was there had been announcements of gifts to Morehouse and Spelman, I think by Netflix and others, and in a press release you had praised the other institutions rather than, take a more, Carolina Vol say, what about us? And I guess folks from Apple were reading that and appreciated your collaborative spirit. And so that's the kind of leader we want to work with.
Thank you, and you're correct. We were excited for Morehouse and Spelman. Matter of fact, my son graduated from Morehouse. My daughter graduated from Spelman this year. My oldest daughter graduated from Miles. My youngest daughter is here at Woodward Academy now. We believe in education. So when those other schools receive those large gifts, I'm supportive, fully supportive. And as a result, the community sees it and they say, hey, we need to go help Georgia out, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you for helping us out this morning, because I appreciate the gift of your time.
Thank you, John.
And your leadership is making such a difference for our city and the HBCUs, and I'm just honored you would take time to be with us this morning. And thank you very much. And I think we're winding down now. Again, appreciate it. And one of the things I wanted to mention and some kind of close out remarks is that the flagship initiative of the Westside Future Fund is Home on the West Side. Mm-hmm. Because one of the things when we started the work, unfortunately, a lot of the neighborhood's depopulated, the neighborhood's right around Clark Atlanta University, right, is depopulated. And so back to yay to folks coming back in, but no to folks, being pushed out, which is often displacement.
Right.
So through Home on the West Side, thanks to funds we've been able to raise and other low-cost funds, we've been out, buying investor-owned rental property to kind of convert that to high-quality, permanently affordable rental. That's right behind you there. That's a unit we brought online in English Avenue, 395 James P. Brawley. When we started our work, we set it a goal of wanting to bring online about 800 units, serving those that are earning 60% of AMI and less, which is about 45,000 and less. And so that's our count to where we are today of how much we've bought, how much we have in service and units we're bringing online. What a lot of folks do not appreciate is a lot of our essential workers work on the West Side, and they work for lower wages. Mm-hmm. Doesn't make them low worth, but that's where they get often challenged by those rent increases that happen as a community gentrifies. So through Home on the West Side, we prioritize people from the West Side, and you can see up in the chart, we have a lot of single family we've bought that's vacant. And through Home on the West Side, we prioritize people who have a connection to the West Side, either live on the West Side, have lived on the West Side, or work on the West Side, or graduates of AUC. And one of the things that we offer through Home on the West Side is we offer down payment assistance of up to $60,000 depending on your income to help put you in a single family home. So one of the things we've talked a lot about and on our board, you mentioned Dr. Tatum's been a real champion, is how we make some of the university leadership, folks who work in the university, more aware, because if they're looking to kind of buy a home in the neighborhoods as they revitalize, but also that down payment assistance hopefully would make it attractive to people to come be a part of Home on the West Side, because we really much want to, as we look to repopulating the community, those that have a historic connection to it is what we're trying to achieve with Home on the West Side.
That is and we've discussed it, and you've actually presented to the AUC presidents. I happen to serve as the chair of the Council of Presidents, and you've met with us. One of the barriers that we're working through, of course, is the income, because the AU Center faculty and staff, they have high incomes, to be very honest with you, very marketable incomes, I should say. And so we're working through that because we want our faculty and staff to live in the community. The benefits of those elevated incomes would be when you have a Publix, when you have the restaurants, they ask the questions about the economic conditions of the community. They ask the questions about the income. So when you bring in the faculty and staff of the AUC schools and the incomes that they bring, it makes the case for having a Publix, for having the restaurants, for having the amenities that are in other communities.
No, exactly right. And the residents that are here now, if you were to talk to Colette and others, those amenities is what they're after.
That's right, and we have to have them.
Right, so bringing people in that have enough people to make it attractive for those amenities to show up would be terrific. So I would love to come again.
Come and do that.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? Sometimes businesses will ask the question, well, how long have you all been in business? Well, I say since 1865. How about you? And they say since 1944. We're stable. We're going to be here.
Yeah, well, especially hitting $100 million a year, you're going to be doing great. Well, thank you again for being here. I think we're going to bring back Benjamin and Ebony.
All
to
right.
help close out our show. We can, I guess, exit to our left.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was awesome. Awesome interview. And I am here back oh, I'm so sorry. I still have my mask on, or at least I'm being safe, right? I'm following protocol. Sorry about that. To announce the winners of our gift card giveaway. So we have a Home Depot gift card, and of course, as some of you may know, Home Depot has invested millions of dollars, literally millions, on the West Side to revitalize the neighborhood, and they're also giving something away today as well, and the winner for that giveaway is Sahar Simmons. So congratulations. And also Goodwill of North Georgia is giving a gift card away today as well. They have a new store and career center that is being built as we speak on Metropolitan Parkway. It's set to open this fall. And as they build a new site in the city of Atlanta, Goodwill's hope is to become part of the fabric of the community and become a catalyst for transformation, or further transformation, I should say, in the city. And the winner of that gift card is Miss Melissa Harper. So congratulations to our two raffle winners. And with that, I think Benjamin's coming back.
That's right. So congratulations once again to our gift card winners again, as Goodwill of North Georgia and Home Depot Foundation. As Ebony stated, they contribute so much to the revitalization effort happening here on the West Side. And we look forward to continuing to engage with them and work with them to, again, do with the community, not to the community. Again, thank you to Dr. French for joining us this morning. Thank you to Ms. Haywood for joining us this morning. We appreciate you guys being part of the program. And I know we've got a great closer for today's show.
Yes.
We've got Clark Atlanta's Philharmonic organization having a great performance. We're sure you're going to enjoy it. I just hope you enjoy it as much as I did, because it's dynamic. And with that being said, thank you again to everybody for participating. Again, if you're viewing on either channel, be sure to stay engaged with us on social. We love to engage with you, and we love to, keep the conversation going. Absolutely. John, did you have any final thoughts?
I kind of walked off stage there, but well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank y'all for hosting. Again, thank President French, and I should say, President French will actually, given the COVID variant. Dr. Rice, not herself, but people on her team, we're going to actually be going to Morehouse Medical and broadcasting from there for our next Transform Westside Summit, really learning more about this Delta variant and what folks can do about it. So tune into that. And if you've been inspired to give, Clark Atlanta, you heard all the great work they're doing. So go to their website if you want to help continue to relieve debt for students and all the great work led by President French at Clark Atlanta University. If you want to help Home on the West Side, please come to our site, and we'll put those dollars to work, bringing on high-quality housing for residents of the West Side. So thanks for viewing, and thank you to Benjamin and Ebony for doing such a great job, and again to Colette.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate y'all. See y'all next time.
All right, good weekend.
Tonight is special because tonight we celebrate excellence. It's the NBA All-Star Game. The best ball players in the world ready to shine. But basketball won't be the only thing shining tonight. Tonight, the NBA turns the spotlight on our HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities, and the vital role these institutions play in molding students who go on to excel in every field imaginable. I still remember my time at Florida A&M, the spirit of camaraderie, the feeling of pride, and the quest to strive for higher. To be in a place of learning where I felt prioritized and understood made me feel seen and heard. That experience gave me a stronger sense of myself and gave me the tools to blaze my own trail. So now, I invite you to join in the tradition held at many of the 100+ HBCU campuses across the country. The singing of James Weldon Johnson's Lift Every Voice and Sing. Mr. Johnson was himself an alum of the prestigious Clark Atlanta University. So it's only right that his alma mater perform this meaningful anthem. Here to perform Lift Every Voice and Sing is the Clark Atlanta Philharmonic Society.
Bring with the harmony.
sing a song.